2 minutes after 12, so I think we'll get started here. So thank you all for taking the time to join today. I really appreciate it. My name is Max Becker. I'm a senior associate at Utah Clean Energy. I focus on advancing federal climate opportunities. So I was brought on to help with all the IRA and IIJA funding coming down from the current administration. We're really excited about all of those opportunities. Um, and hopefully we can help you all take advantage of them here through some tax credits and rebates that have been made available. So I'm joined by two fantastic other people in the space. We have Scott Dwyer from Resource Innovations. He's going to be leading us off, and he'll give a full background of himself in 30 seconds or less here. And then we're also joined by Megan Nick from Summit County. So the focus will be on tax credits. You need audits to be able to understand those tax credits and be able to implement them. So Scott's going to be providing some context there. I'll be diving into the tax credits. And then we wanted to bring on someone from one of our communities here that's helping leverage those tax credits. And Megan seemed like a great fit being in Park City and Summit County. They've been leaders in the space for a long time. I do want to thank Park City Community Foundation. They help support this work, and we wouldn't be here today without them. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Scott, and he'll give you a brief introduction to himself and tell you about what WattSmart's doing.
Thanks, Max. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, I'm Scott Dwyer. I work for Resource Innovations. You may or may not have heard of us, but we're the guys that give out the WattSmart and Thermwise business incentives. And I represent the outreach team primarily dealing with the customer side. My background, I've been in energy for a long time, and I've done everything from be a high performance contractor and putting my knowledge to work there, running energy efficiency programs and working on CO2 mitigation projects and things like that. So quite a bit of experience in that. So what I'm going to talk about, as Max said, is the energy efficiency incentives, how to participate in the programs. And if you see something that's not covered here and it's saving energy, we can get you money. We have custom programs. We have other ways to help with that. So I'm on the customer outreach side, but one of the things we found is that most customers really don't know about the energy efficiency incentive programs or how to participate. When I was a builder, for example, my projects would have qualified. I kept thinking there's probably some money to be had, never actually got any. So our team is your resource to get a hold of that. So basically, who are you going to call? And we'll give you a list at the end of who you're going to call and how to get those taken care of. But if all else fails and you can remember me, call me and I'll direct you to whoever you need to talk to. Basically, we represent both utility programs. We are paid by the utilities to administer their energy efficiency programs, so there's no charge to you, the customer. And because of that, it takes a team to pull these incentives off. So we have the various participants and how these incentives are put together. And so you'll see the customers, they're vital to making this thing happen because the incentives are there to help offset some of the what we call incremental or additional costs by going higher efficiency. The contractors that put those into place, distributors and manufacturers, some of the incentives are actually given through the distributors so that it's passed on to the customer through the distributions participation. And then, of course, where I come into the picture is helping with the energy efficiency incentive programs and showing you how to make that work. So we provide the support, we provide the incentives, we provide the training for both the customers, working with architects, engineers, so forth, and the contractors, well, and the distributors. So our job is to get everybody familiar with the programs, how to make them work. And then ultimately the energy efficiency is built into the project, and the customer ends up benefiting from that for the next uh, lifetime of the building. Are you guys hearing that beep from my computer? No? Yes? Yes.
No,
Okay. How to shut
I
that
think
off.
you're good.
All right. I'm not
It
gonna
was
mess.
pretty quiet, Scott. I think you can go
Okay.
ahead.
Not too distracting.
It,
Great.
it's a, it's okay.
All right. Super. Um, One of the questions we get, why would any company incentivize their customers to buy less of their product? We're doing energy efficiency and trying to make the buildings more efficient. And here's the energy companies, which are selling that to you, the customer. Why would they do that? Well, here's basically one of the reasons from the electric side. This is the cost of electricity per kilowatt hour through these various sources, and how much it costs to build those power plants. The cheapest electron to manufacture is the one you don't have to manufacture. So energy savings becomes the least cost resource. Along with that, we're trying to move the marketplace by motivating people to make energy efficient choices. For those who've been involved in a project, keep those energy efficient choices in the project. A lot of times, the first thing people will try to do to save money is go after energy efficient equipment. It's called, you know, it basically is screwing up the long-term value of what we're trying to do. So it also allows them to manage their energy load. And as utilities continue to move it to time of cost, uh, time costing, time of day costing, or load costing, that allows them to be able to move that around. And of course, customer satisfaction. If you aren't comfortable in your building, sorry, but most people don't care how much energy you're saving. So we try to make sure that that is included and that it's well done. So as I said before, we represent both WattSmart and Thermwise, Rocky Mountain Power, and Dominion Energy. And so the types of incentives that are available: lighting, Rocky Mountain Power only; HVAC, both utilities are represented in that space; new and used food service. Some people don't even know that that's available, but if you own anything or are involved with projects that have food service, we can help there, along with retrofits and major renovations. So envelope measures, wall and roof insulation, windows. And then new to the program, Rocky Mountain Power a couple years ago, and to WattSmart within the starting this year, we have the ability to do new construction for both project or programs. So it's really easy money if you think about it. And the part that people forget, you're paying into this program on your monthly bill. It's one of those things that's categorized on your bill, and it will talk about some sort of energy efficiency, and that's when you're paying in. The only time you can take out of the program is when you do a project that you qualify for. So let us know whenever that happens, and we can help you find funding and incentives. And of course, Max is participating and trying to make sure that we understand that. We can provide a list of qualified contractors that are familiar with the program. They've already participated. They know what to expect. And you don't have to figure out where to start, because we have energy audits, HVAC checkup, custom analysis, all kinds of things to help you figure out where your point of entry should be. One of those that we're going to talk about is advanced rooftop controls, or ARC. Main reason we're talking about ARC, it's one of the most attractive ones we've got right now, with 20 to 60% in energy savings, which of course drops your bottom line. And then you've got the advanced rooftop controls. So why is that important? Well, it makes it to where you have fewer breakdowns, fewer repairs, things are operating better overall. And then you've got the ability to remote monitoring. Your contractor may actually know you've got a problem before you've got a problem, and they know how to solve it. That's one of the things, diagnostics and things that are attached to this advanced rooftop controls. And you've got better air quality because of the CO2 controls and the ventilation. In Utah, we end up with days like today. You don't have to put much additional energy into what's coming from outside, and it makes it more effective. So we add to that the energy incentives and rebates and bring that to the table. So save the energy up front and then save the energy down the road for the next life of the project, or at least the equipment. I'll give you an example we used. This is a project, big one, of course, Valley Fair Mall. But if you look here, the incentives were on the order of $245,000 roughly. And then they're saving, over 1 million kW, almost 1.5 million kWh energy savings a year. That's a major improvement in your energy usage and the bill you're having to pay. Dominion also has an ARC incentive, so you can actually kind of double dip between the two utilities. And so they added an additional 56,000 on there, and with their decatherm savings of over 4,000. So that's adding additional controls to these little tiny boxes here. And that's what we were able to do for them. So since Thermwise is here, and you wouldn't assume that they would be involved in air conditioning incentives, let's talk a little bit more about their program at this point and show you kind of overall what incentives are available. This is way too much information on one slide, but you can see, boilers, normal stuff that you would expect, furnaces, condensing rooftop units, unit heaters. You can drop into infrared, pipe insulation, boiler tune-ups. If you've got boilers, there will provide tune-ups every year to keep those units running well. Gas storage unit, gas water heaters, and then into some of the stuff that you may not expect, energy recovery ventilators. This is their advanced rooftop controls section. This is another one that's real important. I'll get into a little more detail, but if you've got a project that you did and it was certified to LEED or Energy Star or any of the green certifications, we pay 5 cents per square foot just for getting that certification not to exceed $15,000. That is in addition to the high performance new construction, which is $5 per model decatherm. So we do an energy model and pay from the drawings, and the as-built condition, we pay $5 per decatherm saved. So that's a real quick overview. I'm going to open it up at the end for questions about that, because I know that you're looking at all these kinds of what about and we're just zipping through here. Again, we talked about various insulation for the envelope, and then all of the gas appliances for food service. So those are all covered. And then, as I mentioned before, we've got new construction major renovation incentives for both utilities. I'm going to focus primarily on the Rocky Mountain Power one. It's been around, I think we're on our 3rd year. And so basically you're looking at the whole building as a unit instead of a kludged together bunch of various incentives that might be given for individual equipment. We can work it right into the construction cycle, and we give incentives for improvements over code. So if you're just building a code level project, we aren't going to incentivize that because code makes it to where you have to do it to that. We also provide early engagement. And so then we help with that. The more money, the earlier you involve us, and the more we can get energy efficiency into the design, the more money you're going to make. And then we can also give construction incentives only option, which means if you built the energy efficiency in already, we can provide incentives and go back a year with those incentives. So if they completed a project within the last year, that's a new construction project, make sure you reach out to us. But major renovations are also available. Major means that you aren't just changing out light fixtures or moving a wall or something. It's something that it's serious enough that it invokes code. You've got to get a building permit, and then it would start to qualify. So we can do gut rehabs. That's not, we aren't talking about a doctor required gut rehab, but the kind we can help with on buildings. And then where applicable code is required, that allows us to get a baseline, and then we do the energy efficiency above the code. And then this is basically what this is speaking architecture terminology. ComChecks are commercial energy checks to make sure that you're meeting commercial energy code. So we use that to determine what the baseline would be. It's paid in 4 different incentive payments. And so again, as I said, if you're over here in the early part of this, where the owners still hasn't decided exactly what they're going to do, we're going to test some ideas, some concepts, some preliminary designs, do some energy modeling to help you make those decisions. And then there's an incentive paid there. And so most money is paid by adding all these up, and the early you participate, the more you can draw from. Then the next step is to refine that step right here. And then once you get to the 100%, we modeled this right here to determine that design incentive, and then moved into the next step, building the project, commissioning the project, and then we inspect to make sure that it was as per the designs are. And then from there, you can actually get a bonus incentive and basically monitor. We go out and verify the meter, verify that the savings are actually being realized, and then we pay based on the fact that it is operating at the level that was anticipated, and it gives feedback back to the program so we know what kinds of incentives are most advantageous to projects. And we can determine that savings is being realized, because if otherwise you have to have a post-commissioning project in order to get everything back up and running correctly again. Break this out a little bit more. This early engagement is paid. The incentives are paid so that it favors higher incentives per square foot to smaller projects. Sometimes it costs as much for the equipment to move to the next incremental cost and make it more efficient for smaller projects than it does bigger projects, where you can spread that out over the cost of the project. So it's tiered to match that type of concept. And then we again offer the design incentives. And so we're trying to provide details to how to make this thing happen, how to get key energy efficiency things incorporated, and engage an energy consultant to make sure that you're getting the efficiency that you expect to get. Again, based on a tiered system. Finally, you're into construction. The deliverables is verifying that savings and that it was built in. And then you've got various paths, the standard path, the early engagement bonus, and the middle one. I can't remember what EUI stands for. Sorry. Again, on a tiered basis, and the higher the efficiency and the early you engage us, the more incentives are going to be available. And the final one, this commissioning, is paid at the time of commissioning. So, and this is the performance incentives that's available at the end after you're using the meter to verify it. It's got to turn out within 5% of the modeled energy use, and that the whole building performance is realized. And then we benchmark it, and that allows you to know where your starting point is if moving into Energy Star certification and so forth. There are sample incentives here. You'll see some of these that have been paid already. A project that's gone through this, somewhere a small project might be expecting 30,000, a medium project 60,000, and a large project 150 to 200,000. So that kind of gives you an idea of the kinds of money that are available. It's there waiting for you on your project. And if you're not quite sure how to participate, here's what you do. Who are you going to call? So in the lighting program, they have energy specialists that focus specifically on lighting. So if you're only doing a lighting retrofit, or you're trying to improve your lighting that way, you can reach out directly to Federico, and he can help you on the lighting side. On the new construction program that I just went over, Jess Balance is our marketing engagement manager, and she's the specialist in this incentive. And so you could reach out to her directly. This is being recorded, I know. So if you need to go to this, you're at 22 minutes. Watch Smart and Thermwise Business. I'm the outreach supervisor. So anybody that's involved in either one of those programs, I can get you in touch with. Specialist in the Thermwise program is Jacqueline, and she's the market engagement lead for that. And the Thermwise and WattSmart Business program, the customer outreach gentleman, his name's Brad, and he can help you there. And I kind of buzzed through that, but we got 3 speakers, and I'm trying to leave Max enough time. He's been cut off because he's the last to go. So thank you. And if you have questions, we'll catch up with you at the end.
All right. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. And it's a great team over at WattSmart and Thermwise. So please give them a call if you have any questions. I know they'd love to help as much as possible. So we're going to get into how the Utah specific programs that are provided by WattSmart and Thermwise, Rocky Mountain Power, and Dominion Energy can be leveraged with some of the tax incentives that are now available through the federal government. So we'll start with what we do at Utah Clean Energy, just a brief outline. So we focus on 4 strategic promise areas, 4 topic areas. We focus on transforming our homes, buildings to be emissions free. So working through our built environment, which has quite a bit of emissions coming from it. We also work to electrify our transportation to be emission free, particularly through medium and heavy duty trucking. We work to modernize our electric system, our grid, to be innovative and ready for 100% clean energy. And then we also do government relations work, working with influencers throughout the state to be promoting that clean energy transition. So if you have any questions on those, we have a lot of team members that are much smarter than I am, that have been doing this for a really long time, that would be happy to answer questions on any of those topics. I'm happy to provide contact info for all of them. So I want to take a step back before we get into the nitty gritty of these tax incentives, and just talk about the Inflation Reduction Act. I think a lot of people have heard of the IRA. They hear what a huge investment it was, and don't really understand how that will affect us. And there is billions of dollars for the clean energy transition. As you can see, a lot of it coming through grants, through financing, through programs for tribal governments, for low income folks. But a huge chunk of that is through tax credits, specifically through business tax credits. We will touch on individual tax credits a little bit today, but we're going to mostly focus on those business tax credits. So here it says $227 billion nationwide. That's through the Congressional Budget Office. They're notoriously conservative on these sorts of estimates. There are other folks out there that think that that amount could be 3 times as much. So all of those financing and grant options, those are capped. There's a certain amount of money that they have for those programs. Tax credits are not. We as Americans and folks that live in this country can take advantage of them to as much or as little as we want to. So making sure that our communities are aware of these options and that there is financing and credits available for clean energy projects is so important. So this has become a big part of my work and sort of spreading the word here in Utah. And those energy tax credits, they come sort of in 5 flavors: low emissions energy generation and energy storage systems, energy efficiency in buildings, zero emissions vehicles and charging infrastructure, low emissions hydrogen, and advanced energy manufacturing and supply chains. We are not going to focus on the bottom 2 in this slide. We don't have a whole lot of hydrogen projects going on at the moment, hopefully in the future. And then advanced manufacturing and supply chains, we don't have a ton of manufacturing that applies on sort of this industry scale. That's more in Nevada, Tennessee. Maybe one day we could see the benefits of those. These tax credits will be around for a while. So we're mostly going to focus on those top 3, particularly energy efficiency in buildings and zero emissions vehicles and charging infrastructure. So there are 3 groups that can really take advantage of these tax credits that have been passed. First one is businesses, and we'll start with that here. So I've outlined most of the energy credits that one might be able to take advantage of. The 2 big ones that I want to focus on, and I say 2, it's actually those first 4 on the left side of the screen, the production tax credits and the investment tax credits. So the production tax credits are for any renewable energy that's created on site, and you can receive up to 2.75 cents per kilowatt hour for any of that. And then the investment tax credit is building out the infrastructure for that production credit. So on the initial investment, you can receive up to 30% of the project cost with bonus credits. If it's in a low income area or an energy community area, you can receive up to 40 to 50% of that project cost through tax credit. And then you're receiving a tax credit on that investment every year moving forward. So, the administration is really pushing for this sort of long-term goal of financial stability through these investments. And as Scott was referring to, the energy benefits that you're seeing along with these tax credits and incentives through the ThermWise and WattSmart programs, it really does start to add up. So I want to touch on as well the Zero Energy Ready Homes tax credit. It sounds like that would be something for homeowners, but it's actually given to contractors when they're building out zero energy homes. Section 45L tax credit, and that's up to $5,000, can be paired with some other opportunities that are out there, particularly what's offered through ThermWise and WattSmart. And then we move into the clean vehicles. So there's the credit for commercial clean vehicles. That's up to $40,000 for a medium or heavy duty fleet. And then there's the alternative fuel and vehicle refueling property credit. So that's for charging stations, refueling stations on site, building out that infrastructure. That's up to 30% of the cost. The rest of these are for larger sort of industry power production. I'd be happy to go over those if you would like at a later date. So feel free to email me about those. And there will be a resource guide at the end of this if you want to look into any of that. So we'll move on to the second group that can take advantage of these tax credits. The first was businesses. The second is going to be nonprofits. So the IRS rolled out a really cool program called elective pay. You might hear it as direct pay. And this is so that tax-exempt entities can receive these tax credits for these sorts of clean energy projects. So this was the largest change that was made from when these tax credits were introduced to the American Rescue Plan in 2021. And the Inflation Reduction Act made it so that there are thousands and thousands of organizations throughout the country that can also take advantage of these tax credits. So this includes state agencies and political subdivisions, municipalities and counties, rural cooperative electric utilities, and then a whole host of 501 organizations, and really importantly, tribal governments. So this is an opportunity to expand these tax credits and to make sure that folks are involved. So we at Utah Clean Energy, we have our Climate Innovation Center coming online this year. We're very excited about that. We're applying for these tax credits. We're working very closely with some of our friends and partners to understand this process, as this is the first year. So we will be hearing back about submission on this in May and November, depending on how these nonprofit entities keep their books. So we will continue to update as this moves forward, as IRS guidance changes. So please look out for more blog posts, more webinars, more speaking opportunities. I will be looking into this further and hopefully have more to provide as this process moves forward and elective pay becomes a staple in our fight for a clean energy transition. So I did want to touch on, if you noticed in that first slide about business tax credits, there was that prevailing wage requirement, or PWA, that provided 30% or 2.75, the highest amount of tax credit. And then you would have noticed that if those PWAs, the prevailing wage requirements, are not met, that drops down to a fifth of what that highest end tax credit is. And so the prevailing wage requirement is essentially trying to feed two birds with one stone, as it were, in that we're trying to move forward the clean energy transition as well as create sustainable jobs that can help build communities. So we're working with labor unions, with contractors across the state to make sure that these are met. That list that Scott provides of contractors, a lot of them are very aware of this and have an understanding that they need to be meeting those federally required prevailing wage and apprenticeship requirements. Those are done by census tract. And for the most part, from my understanding, this hasn't been much of an issue, but it's something to think about as you're going through your project, as you're hiring out contractors. Are they meeting these requirements to make sure that you get that maximum tax credit? Because going from 30% of a project to 6% of a project is a big loss. So the last group that can take advantage of these tax credits are individuals. And I wanted to make sure to touch on these. The prevailing wage requirement also, it does not apply for individuals. There is some domestic content requirement. So the list for what products are available for these tax credits are provided online. Again, in that resource guide that I'll be providing in the end, we'll be able to tell you, and feel free to email me with any questions that you have on this. But there's the credit for new clean vehicles. So this is a credit that I think most people know of. Basically, if you're going to go out and buy a Tesla, you can get up to $7,500 back for that. And there are a few other car manufacturers. I know Chevy has a couple on the list. I think Volkswagen used to have a couple on the list. It's shrinking as we move to that domestic content requirement. So along with providing those good jobs through the prevailing wages, and making sure that we're moving towards that clean energy transition, the current administration is really trying to focus on bringing manufacturing back to the United States. And so that domestic content requirement, they're trying to do a lot of things at once. So make sure that you're following the IRS guidelines and that you're doing your research before you're making these purchases on the IRS website or the DOE's website. So there's also that same 30C alternative fuel vehicle refueling tax credit. There's a business side to that, and there's also the individual side. So if you're putting charging on your property, you'll be able to receive that. There's the previously owned clean vehicles tax credit. So if you're buying a used electric vehicle, that could be receiving up to $4,000 or 30% of the sale price, whichever is lesser. And then there's the energy efficient home improvement credit, as well as the residential clean energy installation credit. So those are both for energy retrofits for your home. I want to make sure that I give Megan enough time here. So here's our resource guide and the blog post that's linked in the chat. Josh was generous enough to provide that. So please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions on this. I'm happy to provide them, and these slides will be going out as well. So from here, I'm going to allow Megan Nick from Summit County to provide some insight on what the county is doing to support our clean energy transition and lead out and take advantage of these sorts of tax credits. So Megan, I'll pass it over to you.
Well, thank you, Max, and thank you to Utah Clean Energy for inviting the Summit County Sustainability Team to give a brief overview of how the county and Park City are supporting emission reductions and what our community can look forward to in 2024. Just a quick introduction of myself. I am the new sustainability analyst for Summit County, working with Emily Quinton, our sustainability program manager. As many members of the community already know, the county and Park City have both established ambitious emission reduction and renewable energy goals. Summit County and Park City have government operations and community-wide goals, which both offer different challenges and opportunities to achieving emissions and energy reductions. Before diving into what we're doing to reach these goals, it's important to identify our largest sources of emissions. In Summit County's annual emissions inventory for county operations, we continue to find that solid waste is our greatest source, whereas buildings and transportation are the larger contributors to community-wide greenhouse gas emissions. With these sources in mind, I now want to shift towards what we're doing to encourage emission reductions with an emphasis on energy efficiency of the built environment to reduce our energy consumption. So next slide. The county currently utilizes land use and development code to encourage emission reductions through renewable energy projects, transportation electrification, and programs targeting solid waste and transportation-oriented development. To give some context on how we can impact energy use through land use planning, this image was taken from Summit County's 2023 Vision and Strategic Plan. Showing how we can maintain and preserve open space and the environmental value that these open lands provide while encouraging development near transportation and commercial centers. On the education side, the county focuses on providing resources to businesses and residents to achieve our community-wide emissions reduction goals. For businesses, this includes the Green Business Program, which continues to be an opportunity to educate businesses in the county on how they can reduce their impact through more sustainable operations. We aim to help businesses identify actions through energy, water, waste, transportation, and thriving community and equity. Additionally, the program offers lunch and learns and green drink networking events to help businesses learn from each other and from industry experts. For residents specifically, the county is always trying to find unique ways to engage community members. The Community Planning Lab is a course offered by the county as an opportunity for residents to engage in the processes that drive local land planning and policy decisions. So the curriculum includes transportation planning, affordable housing, and sustainable development, which are all critical drivers of our community-wide emission reduction goals. And then a few things to look forward to in 2024. This coming summer, Summit County residents will be able to access energy detective and conservation kits to use in their homes. And the detective kits will be available at county libraries for checkout with items including a smart plug, flare thermal camera, and a watt meter, which are all designed to detect unnecessary uses of energy in the home. And then we'll also be providing conservation kits, which will be available to take home with simple, low-cost solutions to save energy and water in your home. And so some of these items include a toilet tank bank, weather stripping, and LED light bulbs. And then along with the rollout of these kits, there are also a few other exciting events to look for in 2024, which is on next slide. Thank you. First and foremost, this spring, the Electron Solar Farm in Tooele County will come online, supporting the emission reduction goals of Summit County, Park City, Deer Valley, Park City Mountain Resort, Salt Lake City, and UVU. So keep an eye out for that announcement, hopefully soon. As I mentioned, the Green Business Program has been a way for the county to support emission reduction goals community-wide. And this year, the program will be launching a new website and scorecard, which will further align with Park City and Summit County's energy goals. So for example, we look to further support businesses in seeking out energy audits, which is a part of the WattSmart program and ThermWise that Scott mentioned earlier, through and the implementation of effective water and waste reduction strategies, which all kind of have a hand in energy consumption. And so more recently, we received council support for Park City Community Foundation's Zero Food Waste Compact, which aims to eliminate food waste in the Summit County landfill by 2030. This compact will not only reduce the demand on the county landfill, but it's also going to support our emission reduction goals, considering that landfills play a major role in global greenhouse gas emissions. And as I mentioned previously, solid waste is a leading source of emissions for our own government operations emissions inventory. So we look forward to the implementation of that compact and community participation. This compact also highlights the scale of impact we can have through partnerships, which is something the county continues to strive for by working with Park City, the Community Foundation, the Chamber, and Recycle Utah, as well as other key community stakeholders. So we are very excited for the continued progress to come in 2024 in reducing emissions at the city and county level, with the involvement of community members as well. So next slide, just to end that. For more information, both Summit County and Park City have great resources on their websites. And if you have any follow-up questions or want more information, please don't hesitate to reach out to Emily or I from Summit County, as well as Celia Peterson over at Park City. With that, I will pass it back to Max.
All right. Well, thank you, Megan. That's awesome to hear how you all are leveraging your guys' network and moving us forward in Utah and providing that example. So with that, I'll open it up to questions. It looks like we had some in the chat that Josh was able to answer as we went. There were a couple in here, Scott, that were focused specifically on the WattSmart and ThermWise programs. Donna, you mentioned that you guys at Bicycle Collective have 118 solar panels on your roof, and we're wondering what documentation that you should request from the general contractor prior to closing the project to be able to take advantage of all of that. So Scott, would you have Donna go towards one of your colleagues and work with them? Oh, Scott, are you with us?
610.
Okay. Sorry about that. And yes, there are, again, within Rocky Mountain Power's portfolio of offerings, they're specialists in the solar program, where you can talk directly to people that know how to apply for and get those incentives. If you go into wattsmart.com, that has all the information of who you should contact, and they can direct you to their solar specialist. And then if you don't get any satisfaction, call me up and I'll make sure that we get you with somebody that can help.
Great. So Donna, I think that Scott would be able to help you on the full suite of products that they offer. So feel free to reach out to him. I'm sure he'd be happy to help. So yeah, quick shout out to Andy Hecht from Park City Community Foundation. He has provided in the chat his email if you have any questions on the zero food waste goal that Megan brought up. I'm sure that Megan would also be able to answer any questions on that. Sounds like a really amazing project. Something that maybe we should be looking into down in the valley as well. So were there any other questions that came up? Anyone want to unmute themselves and provide a comment? All right.
While we wait, Max, why don't we just for Scott's sake, since we've had some questions here, Scott, can you just do a quick distinction between the WattSmart Business Program and the WattSmart Homes Program, just so folks know that, you know, Rocky Mountain Power and then Dominion with Thermwise do both commercial and business incentives and also residential incentives?
Sure. Be glad to. One of the things that that is available, as Josh mentioned, is residential programs for both Rocky Mountain Power and Dominion. Some of those are contractor focused, and some of them are the actual customer focused incentives. And so there are incentives for multifamily projects and single family residences. The single family program on the WattSmart side is run through our office, and so those people are available. There are programs that work with the contractors, and they do energy audits during and then after construction, so that energy efficiency is built in and not tried to be tacked on at the end. And so we can help there. I was just texting Sally. Hi, Sally. And to help her offline. So if there's anybody else that would want to reach out to me, we can put you in touch with the residential, single family residential group. And then the other group for multifamily is a different group, but I can also steer you and give you their contact information. And then there are specific measures that we call prescriptive for residential as well. Megan kind of alluded to some of those weatherization kinds of quick and easy, simple solutions, but there are incentives on both the Thermwise and WattSmart program. The first division is residential and commercial. And so if you go to those wattsmart.com or thermwise.com, you can go into the residential side and see those incentives that are available. Any other questions there, Josh? Or
Nope, that's great. I also, just for everyone's sake here, wanted to just give a quick plug that we have a hub that has some specific information on the Utah Clean Energy website that has some little more high level detail on some of the incentives, particularly the tax incentives for energy efficiency for residential solar installations, and then also for electric vehicles. And I did put that in the chat. It's available on our website, and Max's blog has some of the good information there, but there is some additional stuff in case you want to dig in a bit further there.
Thanks, Josh. And I alluded to some of the other programs that the IRA and IIJA are providing, and just to give a quick overview of some of the really big ones that are, you know, hopefully coming here to Utah. Our own Jen Eden was a big part of the Solar for All application. So this would be roughly $70 billion for low income solar throughout the state. So we're waiting to hear back on that, which should be really exciting. Utah, as well as the Salt Lake metro area, just applied for the climate pollution reduction grants. They provided Priority Climate Action Plan, which you'll be able to see on their websites. And we're hoping for, I believe it's 70 million-ish through the state and $10 million for the metro statistical area, the Salt Lake City and County folks, as well as some tribal governments have also applied for that funding. So that could be a huge boost. And then I think the most pertinent one to be on the lookout for our conversation today is the home energy rebates program. So there'll be two programs provided in that, one for a major retrofit, and then another would be a point of sale rebate for appliances to increase home efficiency. The state of Utah has been allocated $101 million of that, and we at Utah Clean Energy are working closely with the Office of Energy Development to get that application through. So keep checking our website. We'll be sending out emails about all of these programs, and we're really excited about the future of the clean energy transition here in Utah. So I hope that's some helpful context as you start thinking about these tax credits and how you can use them. Well, with that, if there aren't any other questions, I do want to allow time for those. I'll stay on, but if that's it for today, I can give you all back a few minutes. Feel free to reach out to anyone that was on the webinar here today. We'll be sending out slides to all the participants. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll be in touch soon.